This is Rose Kun, and today we have my special friend guest, Barbie. And me and Barbie met in, I think, 2020. So Barbie is my social media friend where we connected, and she has a page called It's Barbie's Book. So a lot of like mental I don't know why I want to call it mental toughness, but a lot of personal growth, spiritual, just varieties of books. Um, she she can probably give me a better description, but we connected through Instagram, and we've been friends since then because I started reading more books during COVID, and I always had this belief of like, oh, I'm not like smart reading books and this and that. I had to break through those limiting thoughts. Like I do read books, and I might be a slow learner or a reader, but I do read books. So, and the books that she mentioned and has you read, oh my gosh, how many books have you read already?
So if I go on book reads, it's probably like almost 400.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so back to my subject. Sorry.
It's okay.
And this is what podcasting like. I just go straight. So, Barbie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Okay, so my name is Barbie, and I'm currently an English major student. And I'm currently living in California, where I don't know if you guys know the Riverside County area, but that's my area. I would love to be in New York, but I am here for now. And yeah, I write book reviews on my page. It's called It's Barbie's Books. And I started in 2020 and it just grew. I started getting messages from like Penguin Random House, just different publishers that started sending me books, and they liked the way that I was kind of like sending my message through the reviews. And then it just grew and it grew. And then when, I lost people, but then I grew again. I don't know. It's just like this weird up and down thing with social media. But I think for me, what has been exciting about the page is like connections, like the one that we were able to, have together. And there's been a couple people that I've connected with. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm not on there every day as much as I used to be, but because I'm a student and I work and life, kids, family. But yeah, that's how we met. It's been 4 years
Yeah.
now. I can't
Oh,
believe.
it's been 4 years. And what made you open the Instagram page for the books? What
Okay.
brought that up? And we're like, oh, I'm gonna do that.
Well, because I have been reading books since probably 2010, 2011, 12. Not so much like I do now, but during COVID, I just started reading more and I said, oh my gosh, I should probably make a page just for fun. So I made a page just for fun. It was private during the time. And then when I started following a few people, I ended up getting the idea from, his name is your brother Mike now. I don't know if you follow
Oh,
him.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I got the idea because he said we need to show ourselves more often. We need to stop being, hiding behind the screen. And at first I thought, I was just private. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it's not gonna be nothing big. But then I'm like, you know what? He's right. And I started showing myself more often. I ended up making the page public. Then I started getting all the interactions. And that's how I kind of just developed the page. It just started flowing. And but mainly it was just for fun. It was just like, oh, it's just my thing so that I can keep track with my how many books I'm reading. But then I found out about Goodreads and I'm like, okay, Goodreads, I'll go on Goodreads. But Instagram has been the best experience. Well, in the Bookstagram community, that's what they're called. It's been the best experience because there's no, I mean, personally, there's no like competition, who went where, who did what. Because when we have private pages, sometimes that happens. Or when we have other pages that are about family and you start following family and other friends, you start like, oh my gosh, they did this, they did that. Where'd you go? Where'd you? So this one was more fun. It was more about fun, not about, oh, I have to post that I did that, or I have to post that I did this. So this was fun for me. And that's how it started. That's how I started the page.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It was just like, let's just do it for fun. And then
Yeah.
it just attracted so many because I really love your style of you reading a certain book and then highlighting it and then writing an explanation to go even more for us to understand. So I really love that part about your page. And there's so many different types of books that I want to read that you mentioned, but I was like, oh my God, there's so many books on my bookshelf now that I don't haven't read yet that I bought.
Right. That's all of us though. Don't worry. That's me too. I have probably like 100 books that if I see them and I get a good deal on them, I just buy them. But I know what you mean. I understand.
Yeah. So you have all these books behind you. What is like what are one of the books that has helped you in your like transformation healing journey?
I'm so glad you asked me that because oh my God, there's so many. But what came down to pushing me to do something like take it on to the next level, which then reading is awesome, learning is awesome. So you mentioned the highlights and all that stuff. That also I added that to my reading. How can I explain it to you? Okay, so my reading, the way to read for me was just reading, and then I remember some stuff and then some stuff I wouldn't remember. But once I started highlighting, annotating, that comes from being a student, being an English major student, where you have to dissect what, this poem means or what the
Mm.
literature means. So I said, hey, if I can understand this piece of literature better, I can probably understand my books better. So I started doing that to my books, and that's how I gained retaining the knowledge that you learn is hard because we're on the go, we forget things, but doing that helped me. So taking that to the next level was starting therapy. So I started I kind of came across this author, and I have her books here because I knew we were going to talk about it. So I have books here, and her name is Nedra Glover Tawwab. So I started with, these are her books.
Drama
And
free. And what's the other
oh, so
title?
said boundaries, find peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And then the other one is drama free, a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships, which is something that I have struggled with for a while. And I didn't know it. I didn't know that I was struggling with that until I went to therapy. So I'm sure you've heard of the whole people pleasing and the empath attracted to the narcissist, and the narcissist manipulates the empath. So all of these things, I had to like go to therapy to face them. Like, wow, I have a cousin that's like this. I have a brother, a mother, all of these different people in my family that I love them, but they're not healthy for me. So I had to, oh, it's just been such a journey because you learn I learned these different kinds of information about people, but until you go to therapy, it's kind of like when they kind of teach you, like, wait a minute, this is what you've been facing and you just don't know it. So that was how I started this whole new journey of adding more personal information. Like I was actually sharing more personal book reviews because I said, hey, set boundaries, find peace is why I started therapy. Because this author showed me that I'm doing some things that, I know them. It's like our gut tells us, hey, you let that one slide. You shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
That person did that to you and you just let it go. So, it kind of, books were like the foundation, and then you just start building. So the therapy is what build me up
Yeah.
to just go on to the next level. Um, yeah, so it's been a hard, like a slap in the face when you kind of have to make those changes that I'm 36 years old, and I've lived all my life with certain habits and certain ways of being, that changing is hard, and realizing that certain people in your life have been in your life for so long that you're like, oh my gosh, it's time to like put a distance and take care of me. So these are the books that have kind of started me onto the next level. And I call it the next level because for me, it was like, whoa, like a life transformation.
Yeah, yeah. Because when you were speaking about putting boundaries on like family members, it just brought back to me like I remember I had to do that. And
Mhm.
it was like saying it's like it was protecting my space and boundary from like the people that are so close to you. Cause
Yeah.
it's and saying no on to your family members is hard sometimes because you're always saying, yeah, yes, yes, yes. And then I just feel depleted when I'm around them sometimes.
But see, it's also part of our culture.
Yeah.
Part of our culture that we put them first, that be blood is thicker than water and blah blah blah. You know, all these sayings that we grew up with that in the end, for me personally, it's a relief to keep them at a distance.
Mm-hmm. And what nationality are you?
So I'm Hispanic and Arabic.
I knew you were like a mix. I was like, I don't know. Barbie looks kind of like I was like talking to you. I was like, I think she's Mexican, but I was like, I don't know. Wow, that's a beautiful mix.
Thank you. What about you?
I'm Cambodian,
Were
so
you born here? Born here.
no, I was born here, first generation.
First generation. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, born here. But talking about boundaries, I never knew what boundary was. I didn't know, like when I remember taking a like a counseling therapy class, the counselor was like, Rose, what you've been through, that's trauma. I didn't even know what trauma was.
Yes, because there's so many different forms. And you know, it's the another funny thing is that let me tell you something else too. If you've, I don't know if you've read When the Body Says No, or When
Hmm.
the Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
or even The Myth of Normal. These are other books that I've read by what was his name? Gaber Mate.
Gabor Mate, yeah.
So, okay, so I used to have a lot of stomach aches, a lot of stomach aches. My digestion wasn't good. I couldn't, like, if I ate at 7 or 8, I would have to stay up to feel like relief, like, okay, I'm not full anymore, or my stomach would hurt. And I don't have that anymore. It's so interesting to kind of pay attention to how your body feels too, because I used to be annoyed a lot, angry, and there was just so much that I felt that you know, I have a strong character, but I've learned to kind of process feelings. I didn't know how to do that before.
Hmm.
So, you know, the beginning was reading books, and then again, the next level for me was the therapy to work through, you know, emotions and feelings. But one thing I noticed was the stomach problem. I said,
Mm.
wow, my stomach issues are not there. I don't have the stomach aches. I could eat. During COVID, I started eating meat. I didn't used to eat meat before, so I was
No
kind
way.
of
Yeah.
vegetarian, vegan. I always preferred to eat that way. And you know what? During COVID, it just became such a bad time because I felt like, okay, I'm drinking a lot. I'm eating so many snacks. I'm not working out. I'm eating all kinds of meats that I didn't used to eat. So I changed completely. And I also was always afraid to eat that because of my stomach. So I always felt like, oh my gosh, my stomach, my digestion. So now I don't, it doesn't bother me. But I found that interesting how my stomach issues were not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because your stomach was keeping whatever happened to you there and it was showing up in your stomach. Like the body keeps score. And I noticed that when I see people, a lot of them do have stomach problems or digestion problems. Oh, and it's deeper. It's deeper than that. And when you say that you had to learn how to process your emotion, what tools and techniques have you used to help you process your emotions?
Okay, so besides therapy, I am also someone who likes to communicate a lot. I do like to communicate. I do like to talk about stuff. But see, the problem is that when you want to talk to people, it's hard because they'll start yelling, they'll start talking over you, they don't let you finish, you know, they don't let you finish what you're saying. So I tried to do that I've always tried to do that, but it never led me to anywhere. So I think what started happening is I started writing. So kind of writing in my journal. um what else did I do? I had to like be uncomfortable and sit there and talk about stuff, so things that my mom didn't do with me. So if I didn't like something that my daughter did or something that my son did, I had to sit there and say, oh my gosh, I'm like, I have something to tell you guys. And I just sit there like, I would just hold it. And then I started saying it. So you did this and this and this and that. And it made me feel like this. So it was more like I had to state I statements. Like I felt that instead of like, oh, didn't do this. And then you said you were going to do it. So instead of attacking them, I had to change it to tell them how I was feeling. And that was so hard. It was so hard because it's just something that I never it makes me emotional because I didn't get that as a child.
Mm.
And it always comes down to that. At the end of every, I feel like every root that problem that we have, it's something that we as little children we didn't get, or we didn't and I know you know about, this, what I'm sharing. Like I know you understand, because I feel that for our cultures, like it was just a thing. Like you just listen to your parents, you don't talk, you're silent, you can't say nothing. So I wanted it to be different with my kids. And just for myself, like, okay, from now on I'm going to speak. And even with my husband, if I didn't like something that he did, I had to say like, well, I felt like, so it couldn't be like you, because and it's happened before and it doesn't go anywhere. But when you say I felt, it's kind of like it gives them the chance to feel empathy.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, mom felt that way. Oh wow, my wife felt like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're talking about all that stuff, that brings me to the book I read is Nonviolent Communication.
Mm.
And that book talks about like, I feel this instead of, attack. Like, you've done that. Why did you do that? You made me feel like, instead of attacking them, to like come back to, oh, when you did that, like when I'm trying to think of an example. Like, um, okay, just when you raise your voice at me, you made me feel, scared and scared and afraid, or just something, instead of um yelling at them. Because when you, especially, we're both mothers, right? You have two kids. And how long have you been married?
So 19, so we've been together for 20 years, married for 18 years.
Okay,
So
20 for, yeah. And so for me, I have two kids too. We've been together for 18 years. We just got married recently, 2019.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, which is fine. But I think being in a relationship is so much growth, because it's a mirror for us to evolve in.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And for me, I had to learn how to communicate with my husband and my kids, because I remember when my kids, they're like, Mom, you yell a lot. I'm like, I do? I'm like, but you guys are upstairs. So I gotta say, hey, dinner's ready. They're like, why do you gotta yell for? I'm like, so just little things like that. It's like learning to communicate better, because it comes down to communication.
Right. I agree. And I will admit, I mean, it's something you have to practice, and something I feel like I have to practice every single day. It's kind of being mindful about it. Like, okay, so you're gonna pick up the kids right now. You pick up on how they're feeling. How is their vibe? And then how is your vibe? And don't start with you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Start with, okay, how was your day? It's like this, it's like you have to tell yourself how to behave every day, because we're human. Like we're gonna suck one day. And I'm not always saying I sometimes start yelling and get crazy. Now I've told my family, I've told them, look, there's a difference between working on yourself and still having a character, because we still have a character. The way I grew up, I grew up tough, and I know that that's something that I have to kind of put aside and remember that, hey, my kids are not growing up in the times I grew up. So you mentioned, working through marriage. I mean, even that is, you don't see it as often anymore. There's a lot of people that I know that are divorced, and my parents are one of them. So that was another reason why I started therapy too, because I'm like, whoa, aside from having childhood issues, now I have to deal with this too. So, it's tough to as you get older, it's tough because we have to continuously be learning. Otherwise, I don't know who we're going to be. How are we going to stay sane? But for me, I think that's been one thing: education, learning. And sometimes I read books that are repetitive, and I read people's reviews and they're like, oh, this book was so boring and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? It probably was boring, but it reminded me of stuff. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I know it was probably repetitive, but hey, I remembered if I read something similar and I had forgot about it. But so for me, it's kind of like, yeah, some books are repetitive, but I need the repetition.
Yeah, I do too, because for some reason, when it's repeating itself, it's like it ingrains in my mind, like, oh, this is it.
Right. Right. And you know, and of course, I actually did a live with Philip Gabbard, the author of This Day.
Hmm.
And he talked about, you know, books that are repetitive. He's, you know, he mentioned like it's nothing new. Books, you know, books are going to repeat themselves. You know, all of this stuff about life is not, you know, he himself said, I didn't just create this, you know, I just kind of rewarded. We all reward things, like we say things in our own way. Like I'm sometimes I feel like you're not the only person that has asked me, oh, let's talk about something, and I want to, but sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, like it's like a broken record where we all have trauma, we all have, there's always some, all of us are going through something, and I feel like it's a broken record. But then I think to myself, but people need to hear this. People need to hear how much um how much others are hurting and how much these tools are helping them. So, you know, I hear people are like, oh, therapy, oh God. And it's just like, no, but it works. You know, like it really works. So there's some people that don't believe, and some people are just probably tired of hearing the same story over and over. Like, okay, your childhood, you're this, you're that, but it's the truth. Like this is really what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, I didn't know I needed therapy, but it was just the curiosity of, for me, you know, I didn't know I had trauma, which the word trauma now is I think is used like kind of inappropriate sometimes, like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like misleading. So I like to say like an imprint, like my dad
Oh,
passing away left me an imprint,
oh,
and the imprint is what stayed in the body. And for me was anger, right? So doing a level of like talk therapy did its thing. But then when I did somatic breath work is where I really had to drop into the body. And that's where like when I did breath work, where all this anger and like, oh, like rage came out of me. And it was more of a healing journey for me because it was the more of the somatic way, which is like the body keeps score. The book is over there. That's why I'm like looking over there.
yeah, you're like, it's right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like, you know, releasing what was stored in our body out, and it was a lot of anger and hurt. But after I was able to release all that, I felt so much lighter.
Now, were you guys in not a good relationship? If you don't mind me asking, were
Oh,
you
with the man that killed my father. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I just talked to him like 2-3 weeks ago.
okay? So so it
Yeah.
was, so you and your dad were good. You didn't have no problems with your
Well, I
dad.
was 7 years old. So me, yeah. So I, you
Okay,
know,
so
I knew
that
my dad just a little bit. Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you had anger, um, kind of like not closure with you and him. That's what I was
Oh
wondering
yeah.
if
No, I think the anger came from losing my dad.
losing him, right?
Losing my dad, and then you know, my stepdad came up too. Seeing his
Mm.
face and just like the rage of like of you know, for me was just, you know, growing up in like an Asian community, you know, like it was really rare for like a Cambodian family to marry outside because my stepdad's white.
Okay, so you didn't get along with your stepdad.
um he we get along perfect now. We're like, you know, we are great now, but just growing up it was a little harder because he was more micro, like not micromanagement, but like stricter.
Mm.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So, you know, just growing up, I was like, oh, there's some things that I had to like release of hurt and stuff.
Right.
I don't know where I was getting to this.
No, yeah, because you started therapy, you said.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, started
yeah.
therapy.
And actually that helped me actually, you know, before I even started therapy, it was journaling and
Oh,
meditating first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like journaling like you did, and then I started getting into meditation, And meditation was a place where I was able to process just like everyday emotions.
Wow.
And and now that I haven't meditated in a few days, I can feel it.
Wow. See, that's something I haven't tried that I would like to. So you do this, are you doing this every day?
Yes, I've been meditating for I think 6 years.
Wow, that's so awesome. I'm inspired.
Yeah, yeah. It started off with 15 minutes, then 20
Mm,
minutes, then 30 minutes. Then one time I did like 45 to an hour. Yeah, that's what in the beginning of the journey. But now that with everyday life, it's like I try to do 15 to 20 minutes every day.
mm,
Yeah. But it's hard sometimes when you got to sit down and
right.
here the monkey mind is just blah 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 blah. Like you got too many things you got to do. Why are you sitting down? It's like learning that those are just thoughts passing by. It's not you. Like you're right here. You are observing what's going on in your mind.
Right. No, yes, and they don't stop. And that's another reason why therapy works, because it helps you with the ruminating thoughts. And what are they? They're always negative. Most of the time they're negative. So, besides the journaling and the I statements and I even asked my therapist, is it good to be confrontational? Because I am totally confrontational. Like I will literally um ask for example, my sister-in-law, so what's up? What's the problem? Like, let's talk about it face to face. Like, what is it? And she kind of says, hey, it's not a bad thing. Maybe for some people it is, because it's like, ooh, she's rude, or ooh, she's scary, or ooh, but I'm like, okay. But at the end of the day, that's something I love about myself, because we have to love something about ourselves, and we have to that's one thing I do love. It's like I'm willing to confront you in a way that we can fix something. We can maybe let our feelings out, because we all feel something. And just the idea of just be willing to talk to someone. So that's why in therapy I was very angry at family members, that I was just thinking to myself, all these family members come at me indirectly on social media, on they'll text me dumb messages. It's like, why don't you talk to me? Well, I'm here, I'm in real form, like, let's talk. But it was never like that. So I realized, like, okay, I need to stay away from people that trigger me. So therapy has helped me process those little things that without therapy in the outside world, like, let's say for example in the streets, people don't do this.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't care about your feelings, or just in general, just like our culture is just so assuming. Oh, I assume that you were mad, I assume that. So there's no, like you mentioned earlier, communication. That's the thing that we lack. But at the end of the day, that's what therapies helped me learn how to communicate, even through a text message. Like, if I know that person doesn't want to talk to me in my face to face, or over a coffee or lunch or whatever, okay, I'll send them a text.
yeah.
So I'm willing to work with my people. But at the end of the day, all of these tools have been useful. And number one is going to be the books, the reading, because reading. If you can't afford therapy, I mean, I get it. A lot of people can't, and I know some people can afford it through their insurance. Or I started with as a student, like, oh, I'm a student, give me that discount. BetterHelp, give me that discount.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I took it, but I know that it can be, it could be it can be expensive for people. But then again, we buy all kinds of stuff, so it's kind of like we're buying all kinds of things, and we could afford therapy, but it's priorities. And I think for me, it needed to be a priority, like where I put it first, where I said, no, if I want some fixing, because it's a lot of reflecting. Like, I'm not perfect, so I thought to myself, there's a lot of things I need to change about myself. And it started like that: reading, therapy, doing the work, and priority. Like, what comes first? Am I gonna read the book, journal, go for a walk? Like, there's so much we can do, but we have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, so saying somebody's listening right now that's new into everything, like they know a little snippet about what we're talking about, but they don't understand it.
Yeah.
What tips will you give them to start into like therapy or like bettering themselves? Like somebody brand new, like what, you said, oops, you said journaling. Then
Well, another thing that's I mean, I would say it's free, is YouTube. You know how many YouTube,
yes.
it's like I went on there, and when I discovered Dr. Ramani, I was like, whoa, she's a narcissist expert. I just thought to myself, whoa, I was just thinking to myself, wow, I learned so much from her. And she recently wrote a book. It came out, I want to say like maybe 3 weeks ago or a month ago now. And I said, I don't even know if I'm going to read the book, maybe later, but I've already learned so much from her. And, just listening to people's stories, like for example, David Goggins, you end up listening to stories that might not resonate with you, but somehow you feel the empathy, like, wow, that person went through so much. And that's just an example. There's a lot of people out there that go through things. So I would say, because there's a lot of people that don't like to read, I'll talk about stuff and, oh no, but how many pages? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just read one page. But I say, okay, if you don't want to read the book, just listen to it or go on YouTube or, I mean, even podcasts, go on a podcast or watch a documentary. There's just, when you need the help, you find a way. So, but the important thing is that you start to feel like something's off. And that's when you start to look. And I think that if someone doesn't know, what is that me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
That's just, oh, okay. If someone doesn't know, where to begin, and I think there's a lot of us are visual learners. They like to visualize, they like to watch. So definitely YouTube has some nice, videos that even show, scenarios and you can visualize them and they're there for you. And I don't pay for YouTube, so I'm
Yeah.
sure it's free.
Yeah, I know YouTube has been one of my greatest teachers. I remember binge watch if I have this thing where if there is a person that I'm interested in and in their teaching, I binge watch all their things. Like I look them up, like, oh, here's another lecture. I just like binge watch them and just learn from them. And
Mm.
I think I do that with, I mean, I still do that now.
Right. No, yeah, I do too. And there's even audiobooks on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
So
Yeah.
I've found a few audiobooks that I felt like, okay, you know what? If I'm gonna drive from, I don't know, road trip or whatever, going back to, work and school and stuff, I can listen to a book in a day, while you're driving around doing errands, running errands. So I've done that before. They're not all there, but I found some good, George Orwell books on there
Yeah.
that the older books seem to be on there. And I'm like, sometimes I need to get out of the personal development world and
Yes.
read some fiction or listen to a story. So I've done that. But I think more importantly for someone who's starting to feel like something's off, even the people you surround yourself with, some people you just have to stay away from. Sadly, it's sad, but some people, I mean, even if you started doing that, kind of like observing the people around you, because on the inside we feel something like, okay, some of our friendships might be good and some might be bad, but we can't fix everybody. So, that's the part that sucks. So I think we have to gravitate better towards the people that, kind of are uplifting.
Yeah.
And there's not that many people sometimes, and it's really sad. And if you could feel lonely, there's not that many people. So
Yeah, I agree. That's why if I look at my circle of like the people and families I grew up with, because I moved from my hometown to a different town, and I'm the only one that's I'm not the only one, but I'm working on myself, So it's especially with family, they are our greatest teachers besides our kids.
oh yeah. I mean, they test us and it's a test. It could be a test or it could be just a one-way answer. Like, you know what, you're not the one for me. And I mentioned earlier family members and I mentioned my family. And I also have to understand that we don't have the same knowledge.
Mm,
So, I learned things because I'm putting in the work. I'm learning, I'm fixing myself. And if I don't see them doing it, I can't be mad at them either. So that's another thing I had to reflect on, that I thought to myself, okay, for example, my brother, if he's out there acting crazy, I start thinking, okay, that's not the right way to act, but my core values are different. So
yeah.
that's something I had to come to, like reflect and say, hey, your brother's out there doing whatever he wants because he could. That's what he wants to do. And if you want to stay home and read your books, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we all operate based on our level of knowledge. So going back to my mom, if I don't like the way she did things growing up, she was operating based on what she knew. And
Yes.
those are and same thing goes with my dad. Like they both operated with, they had to go to work, they had to, leave us behind or do whatever they needed to do. And they also had their own traumas and their own issues. And, maybe that's why they got crazy. I don't know. But, it just happens, right? Like
Yeah.
they didn't have the tools we have today. Now, if I see them working on themselves today, of course, I'm going to be proud and I'm going to be happy and excited and rooting for them. But when you don't see, not specifically my parents, but any parent not work on themselves, it still hurts. Like, okay, man, they're never going to change.
Yeah.
But you want them, you hope that they change. So a lot of the pain comes from growing up. For me anyway, like I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I have a lot to work on, and it came from childhood. But again, I go back to reflecting on what they knew and the sacrifices they had to make that led them to be who they are today. I don't know, but that's also something that I had to not be mad at, because for a long time I was mad, like, wow, why is so and so like that? Why don't they show me more love, more support, more care? But they don't know how.
Yeah. They don't know how. And that's where they are at. Like, especially with the trauma, generation trauma passing on, and for us, we're the one that's aware, but like, okay, it stops right here, right? I'm not passing that on to my kids, you know,
Yes, you mentioned that. So there's another book called Break the Cycle.
or break the cycle, a guide to healing intergenerational trauma. Yeah.
Yes, this is by Dr. Marielle Bouquet. So
Yeah.
she just released this book this January. So this is also another amazing book, because it goes back to, again, our parents, their parents, grandparents, all that generational stuff. But it's just it's interesting to learn about this stuff, because it's kind of like a circle of people that are like in this whole world of healing, and everybody does it a different way, and everybody's learning. Like you're doing it through breath work, or you've done it through breath work. I've never done that before, or I've never done meditation.
Mhm.
So I find that interesting, but then again, I feel like that's work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Because you got to sit your ass down and stay still and be quiet and process things.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and it's somebody's got to do it, and it has to be you.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody else is gonna meditate for you.
Yeah, it's true. And I get inspired when I see people do it, because I've tried to do it, and it feels nice, but I haven't met that you know how they say you're a master of your art, or like you've mastered your craft by 1,000 what is it, 100,000 or 10,000 hours of your mastering your craft. And I always thought to myself, like, people that are able to just do what they do is because they've mastered that.
Mhm.
They've done the work, and it's not easy.
Yeah,
So
because there are times where if I'm feeling something inside, like it's like, oh, just uneasy, and I have quiet time, usually it's in the mornings or at night, and there's times where in the evenings where sometimes my husband be watching TV, I'll just like, hey, can you put the headphones on? I'm in the room meditating. Sometimes I do a guided meditation and I'm just crying and he's over there just looking at me, but he's used to it now. I'm just like crying, bawling because there's just like all these, like I had to release what I was feeling. It was through and it's like meditation, and it was just crying and like sometimes like, there's that too. But
right.
like I learned how to like just tap in and just sit down with my emotion and process it. So now with my husband, he knows like, oh, put the headphones on. So he does his own thing. I'm able to like cry in front of him because before I would never ever meditate or cry because I would have felt like weird, like, oh, he's gonna see me cry. Now he's like used to it, like, oh, there she goes again, like, which is fine.
Right. Oh, now
Yeah.
does he join
But
you?
that took a lot of like vulnerability and to trust myself. Like, why am I scared to cry from my husband? Sometimes, like when I'm meditating. And it's like getting over like those fears and those layers. And it's just like because we all are always learning about ourselves.
Does he
And
ever join you in meditation, or does he ever join any of your practices?
Yes. Sometimes we during like COVID time, we did like in the evenings like meditation, but he always falls asleep.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
not hurting too much, huh? He can relax. I swear
Yeah.
they do things so differently than we do. I mean, sometimes I tell my husband, I wish I could be like you were. I don't care if somebody stops calling me for months. And he's like, you women think too much. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I wish I could just be like, wait a minute. Oh, well, like, I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. He's like, just let it go. I'm like, but, he's like, just let it go.
Right. No, for real. I do wish for that. But there's just it's nice to have tools, like having the tools. I mean, in any situation now, I'm just more like, think before you do this, think before you, because I've been a very impulsive person all my life. Like, oh yeah, you did that? Oh right, all right, I'm gonna get you. Like it's been like that attitude. I mean, I did grow up in I don't know if you heard of Watts or Compton, but I
Yeah.
did grow up out there. So oh, I have a fly running around here. Oh my God. I did grow up out there and it was like tough. Like
Yeah.
I grew up having to like be defensive all the time. Like,
Yeah.
the racism and, there was just everything. And it just felt like on top of being, when you're neglected at home, and it sounds ugly, but neglecting your children, even if you're busy at work, that's neglecting them.
Mm.
So, being neglected from, not having parents around all the time and then having to go to school and like defend myself and make sure no one's pulling my hair, make sure no one's kicking me, like all these things, we carry them with us. Sorry, I have a fly in
Yeah.
we carry them with us. So I felt like that character of mine was always there, like, being moody, being like impulsive. So like for sure, therapy has been like my best thing in life. Like it's been reading and learning and going back to school. It's been great because my character is there, but I can kind of control myself more. Like, okay, don't get crazy right now. Don't get crazy right now. And I don't know if you can relate.
I totally relate because I grew up, you know, um, just back like, with like the gangs, the Asian gangs, the Mexican gang, the norteños, like
Oh wow.
I grew up, hanging out with the Sureños and norteños, like, but to me it was like we're friends, but they, dress like that or we're in gangs. So I grew up with that. And also I grew up with three older brothers. So I had to be tough.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to be tough. So I understand like you growing up in the Comptons or Watts and, you know,
Yeah, and I'm actually the oldest with two brothers.
Mhm.
They did I mean my youngest brother, he always kind of had a babysitter, but me and my brother, we're 3 years apart. The middle child, the both of us, we were kind of more like stuck together. But yeah, we both had to like I had to look out for him, he had to look out for me. So it was kind of like that, it was kind of like, me and him together. But that I will say the street smarts kind of stuff is good. I mean, this is why I kind of always I tell my kids, you guys don't know nothing. Like you
Yeah.
guys don't know nothing. So I'm like,
You guys
what?
are sheltered. No.
Yeah, I'm like, and but but they grow up, they show you, you do give them something because they have that toughness too. That I'm like, damn, y'all didn't even grow up in the way I grew up, and you guys have an attitude.
Yeah.
I just sit back like, okay, you guys are gonna be fine. But we learn how to take care of ourselves when you grow up that way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in social settings, I'm just more like, you know what, I didn't like that, but I have to be different. I can't be angry, and I can't be I'm gonna get you back. Like that's the stuff that I grew up with, and that's the stuff that I had to kind of put to the side and learn to be different. And it's better, I like it better this way because it's not as stressful.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
mad, it's so stressful to be mad.
I know you're in like fight and flight response like the whole time, just defensive, like watching out, like, oh shit, am I gonna fight now? Do I
Right,
have to run?
exactly. No, totally. And I've been there, I've
Yeah.
so for, and also you end up being that way too with your kids, with your husband. So it's kind of like, okay, no, you have to be different. So for me, it's again back to the reading and the, the therapy and the therapy. I just started doing that 2 years ago now. So
Yeah.
I thought to myself, man, I wish I would have done this before.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have.
Yeah. And it goes to like the timing. Like we still needed to learn whatever lessons we needed to learn before we where we are now. Because for me and meeting Barbie now, it's the work that we had to do for us to meet each other now, to build this like friendship and relationship is like
Yeah.
we had to work through our shit to
Yeah.
where we are now. And that brings up to forgiveness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So how what is your process of forgiving yourself and others?
oh man, let me see. I'm thinking, well,
Or when did
we
you realize that you had to forgive yourself?
we make so I feel that I'm more forgiving. For example, right now I'm taking this math class. I don't know if you've seen, but I've shared on my stories, and I've made peace with the fact or idea that if I don't pass this class, it's okay. Like I've just told myself, but but realistically it's like, what are we told? No, you better do this, you better pass, you're a loser, you're a failure, you're this if you don't pass, or if you fail it, like how can you fail it? So that's an example I'll give you. That's for me right now. I'm like, if I don't pass it, that's fine, I'll take it again. Yeah, I'm losing money, but it is what it is. But for me, I think it has been with my mom mainly, besides education, the math example. I think with my mom, because I go back to reflecting, like, okay, she did this, she did that, she said this, she said that, that hurt. I said things that were hurtful too. So I think that our parents hurt us, but then we forget that we also hurt them too. So I've had to reflect on, okay, I could have turned a cheek then, but I didn't because I wasn't in the mental state that I am in today. So if I wrote back an ugly message, if I said, "Oh, I'm not going to talk to you for I don't know how many months or how many weeks," now it's different. I'm more like, okay, well, she's said that. Okay, I'm just gonna let it go because you know what? She's not in the place that I am in. And I think I had to reflect on things like that. Like, and if you tell people, they're gonna be like, whoa, like, oh no, I won't let that slide. Or I don't, but see, they haven't done the work.
Yes.
They have, it's easy. It's easy for you to say, oh yeah, forget it. Oh no, that I'm never gonna do that. But it's like, yeah, I know I was there too, until I had to realize that I'm not perfect and that I've also been hurtful, that I've also turned my back, or that I've also neglected her too. So it's kind of like your mother neglects you, but you neglect her too as a daughter. So
Mm.
it's so I had to do that. And that's what helped me move on. Like, okay, man, she has said so many things. Like, how could I still be talking to her? Like, this is the stuff that I have reflected on. But then I'm like, well, because she's my mom, and because I want her here, I want her around, I want my kids to know, I want my kids to be close. So it's just a lot of things that they don't bother me anymore.
Yes. Yeah. I can totally relate because, you know, first is like we had to forgive ourselves for all the things that we fucked up on and messed up on. And now that we
Totally.
can forgive ourselves, and when you see it in another person, you're able to forgive because you know where they are at right now in life. And being
Right.
able to just to like love them from afar and just, sometimes, even our own parents and our own kids, we all have our own journeys
Mhm.
to go on.
Right.
Some journeys are challenging. Some journeys are, I think everybody's journey is somewhat challenging.
And a
It is
lot.
no easy, smooth sailing. They're just like waves of life. And it's just learning how to respond to it. And now that you know how to respond and not react to your mother, is like, oh, it doesn't trigger you no more. It doesn't get you. Like you're like, okay, that's it.
Right. No, yeah. And and it's not that I don't want, it's not that I don't want her to, I mean, I want her to notice like, hey, I've done things, but another way that I've also paid attention to is the way that they show you love. They have a different love language.
Yes.
So, so we have a love language, they have a love language, and it's kind of like when I start to pay, again, it goes back to reading and learning. So I've learned that, okay, I've learned, okay, her love language is she's gonna do something, either do something for me nicely, get me something that she thought I would like. So for me, I'm like, okay, she's more of a gift giver. That's how she
Yes.
love,
Same as my mom. Yeah.
Your mom too? Oh, cute. So, and for me, it's like, okay, that's not the love that I might like,
Mhm.
but that's the love that I'm gonna get. So, for me, it's more verbal. Like I am more of like the words of affirmation kind of person, and acts of service. So I think that gifts for me, it's like, oh no, like I don't want a gift. I want you to talk to me. I want you to say this. I want you to, so so it's where you end up learning that you clash. But again, when I have realized that, okay, you know what? She needs a lot to learn. She needs a lot of reflecting. She needs a lot of taking accountability for her actions. That's not my work to do. It's hers. So that's where I've kind of been like, okay, this is where I'm gonna let it go, and I'm not gonna stress out about it or get mad about it. And then that's you just I fall back on the tools, I guess, the tools I'm using
I love
to
that. I love that because I know that somebody's listening here can relate to what exactly you are saying. And then you're giving us, those little tools of just like coming back to the work that we have to do.
right. No, yeah,
Yeah.
it's and then that's how that's kind of like coping with it too. Because you're not gonna they're you're how old are our parents? 50s, 60s. They're not gonna change unless they see that, okay, unless they see that they need to change. So
Yeah.
um
I think it's like, well, there's a saying like it's hard to teach an old cat new tricks.
right. No, yeah, totally. So
Yeah. My
that's why.
mom's like 70. I think she's 70. And,
Oh,
and
your mom?
yeah,
70?
yeah, 70. And then growing up, like she never said, uh, we never expressed any love. Like I never said, I love you or anything like that. My mom love language was like cooking or giving like, the Asian people are like giving cash, like, oh, here's your birthday cash, cash, cash. Um,
Right.
but coming back to what I wanted to say is that, is there anything else you want to end with that
I,
somebody's listening to you right now?
I would say, learn as much as you can, like I said, read a book, go on the YouTube, search, ask questions, ask yourself questions. That's one thing I had to do a lot of reflecting. A lot of reflecting was like my thing. Like this is the only way that I was able to even process, like, why am I feeling like that? And then you start to think, did you drink water today? Did you take a shower? Did you sleep? Because we don't blame ourselves for what we're doing either. We're just like, they did it. So and so did, like everybody else did it to us. But for me, it's like reflect on yourself and read. I'm always gonna say read because that's what
Yeah.
read the books.
Read the books. Yeah. Read the books. And so what are the current books that you are reading right now?
Okay, so I'm going to be so I don't know if you've read Why Has Nobody Told Me This before?
No, I haven't. Oh,
Okay.
I see Julie Smith on the internet, but I have not read
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another they're all tools at the end of the day, it's all the personal development work and the personal, working on yourself. So yeah, I'm gonna be writing a review on this one. I just, the thing is that I like to go through my highlights because when I read things a while ago, I have to think, okay, let me try to remember what I was reading. So I'm gonna review this one soon, but the ones I'm currently working on is Break the Cycle because it just came out and it has kind of like journaling prompts and kind of all that stuff you have to write, you answer questions. And are you currently reading something like that, or do you do anything that has like to do with journaling or answering
Yeah,
questions?
yeah. I'm reading Lighter by young Pablo.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
yeah.
he has journaling prompts on the back too. Like whatever the different chapters he has prompts on that.
Is that his new book, the second one, or I think
No,
that
I think this is
the
uh
first?
the second book.
Okay, because I remember the first one, so
Yeah,
I
the
read.
first one was Inward and then Lighter. Then he has a new book, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I read that a while back. I can't even remember. Like I have
Yeah.
to It's a lot. There's been a lot of books that I've read that I have to, again, it helps me to annotate, right, on the side and remember stuff. That's what helps me. But Break the Cycle is one I'm working on because of the, the intergenerational trauma that she talks about. So
Yeah.
she has and I even downloaded, I even have the audiobook just because her voice is so soothing. And I
Hmm.
just feel like, oh, this is nice. Like she goes, you know, chapter by chapter. So that's one I'm working on. And then I'm finishing up The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you
I
read that one?
I have not read that one, but I listened to some of her like podcasts on that one.
So that's another thing. That's what I was gonna say too. Like if you don't have the book, you could go on her YouTube page and she actually reads it for you.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
she has a few chapters she reads. So I'm finishing that one. And what else? And then just, reading for school, literature stuff.
Yeah.
Not so
Yeah.
exciting.
So your major is a English, what is it again?
English major, yes.
English major. So are you becoming a English teacher?
I hope so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I stare at my professor and I'm just so mesmerized by her. Like just the way she just has this passion for what she's teaching. Like she's just teaching us and she's just like interacting with us. And I just look at her and I'm like, I can do this. Like
Yeah.
it's like that passion that you're sitting there in class, and as soon as she says, let's go through the book, I'm like, let's go through the book, let's go through the sentences. So it's that passion that, and you discover it. I discovered it from reading and learning and all that. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. It took me a while to figure it out, but literature for sure, and reading books and just learning. That's how I figured, okay, I need to be in this educational field.
Yes, I love that because I think that's the journey for all of us. We don't know what we're passionate about. We have to discover it. Just like you, Barbie, you discovered that you love look, like your English teacher, getting into it and then let's read the chapter and you're like, yeah, let's do it. So there's that fire burning inside of you like that's what I want to do. Like that's the direction I'm going. And
Right.
whatever it is, we need all of you because I believe that that's like the way to change this world is when we empower ourselves to do what we are here to do on this earth. Like our time is so limited on earth here, you know, and this planet needs help.
Oh, I know. I know. That's a whole nother
Yeah, I
topic.
know.
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic, but that's where it starts. And and I just also, I also notice like teachers and educators don't get, as much credit as they should. And I think that that's also something that I kind of want to be that teacher that it's like, oh wow, she really taught me this. So it just that's where my passion is kind of like it's like right there, like the pot's boiling and you're like, okay, what do you want to share? And then that's what I want. Like, just creating that appreciation for learning.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for coming on and joining me today. Anything else you want to end with today?
No, I'm just so excited. I'm just so happy and excited. Like we're finally face to face. It's been 4 years and we're finally, we finally get to do this.
I know. I finally get to know, and that I've been following Barbie for 4 years. And today is the day that I finally found out that she has a kid, two kids.
Yep, it's been a very private journey, it's like and yeah, it's been really nice and I love to see the people, your reaction like what?
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm like, oh, she's on vacation again, not knowing probably her kids are there too now.
Oh yeah, not by myself, not by
Yeah.
myself. The whole family
Okay,
goes.
I'm curious. Why New York Yankees?
Oh, why not? Who's your team?
I don't have a team.
You're so funny. You're why?
Yeah,
I'm
it was
like,
like, oh, New York, because you're in California. So I'm like, okay, why New York
you know
Yankees?
what? It goes back to COVID. I would sit and watch YouTube. I
Yeah.
would sit and watch YouTube and I started watching baseball. And you know what? I forgot to include that. That was another part of me feeling so good and happy that that's another part of happiness for me. Like I'm watching the game and it just made me happy. And I said, why didn't I ever do this before?
Yeah.
So that's also part of the discovery of, finding what you like to do, what you like to watch. And I didn't used to do that before. So when I started doing that, it just became this excitement. And that's why.
Oh, that's why. Now I get why you wear the New York Yankee hat and now you had the sign in the background. It all makes sense.
I didn't even know it. I thought I was covering it with my head.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Barbie, and I'll leave all her info on the bottom and check her out, guys. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.